Welcome, friends. This is Andy, career coach Andy. I'm here with Tracey, one of my boot campers. She's from New York. She's got a great story with loads that she can share with you to help you along in your journey and your job search. I asked her to join me. She said yes. I just give her a big warm welcome. We'll get her to introduce her so you know her situation and what she's going through, and she'll certainly share her outcome as well. So Tracey, thanks for being with us. Can you do me a favor and just say hello to the community, our Mile Walk community, and just give them a minute or two on who you are and what you were trying to accomplish.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having me. Hello, everyone. You are in good hands. You should know that. So I came to Andy and joined his program because not only was I in a job search, but also I had a career change. So I was formerly a dancer and a fitness trainer. I knew I wanted to get more into an analytical type of role. I switched to nonprofit and did some fundraising and development. But then I realized I wanted to be a donor rather than the person asking for money. So I wanted to switch into the for-profit sector. And I realized I was really interested in data and spreadsheets and like the business plan of the nonprofit that I was working for, that I wanted to get into finance. And so that was something I had no background in. I had no, a math background, but I was in graduate school to learn some more analytical skills. And so I knew I needed a lot of help really with my narrative, my resume, and how I was going to sell myself. And I just didn't want to waste hours and hours of time doing things that I thought I should do in this job search. I really just wanted to be efficient and take advice from someone who had so much more experience than me. So that's why I'm drawn to work with a coach.
Number one, that was one fantastic introduction of your situation, because when you think about, like, when I listen to you, and I don't know what goes through your head as you're sharing this, but I mean, for everybody who's listening to Tracey right now, think about what she said. I come from this artistic background, which totally blows me away because I don't have any of that, and wants to go into a more analytical field, and started to take some steps into taking courses and educating yourself, which is a great thing, but there's a science behind selling yourself, marketing yourself, all those other things. So how are you? One thing I always like to ask people, and as I've gotten to know you over the past couple of months, you're a very driven person, which I absolutely love, and that's also the kind of person who generally joins our programs to pays and puts the effort in. What were you, okay, so you outlined, I wanted to make this change. I knew I needed some organization. I wanted some counseling on the tactics as well. But can you share with everybody kind of a couple things, what you were feeling, like what were the emotions? Because this is a big deal, right? There's a lot of people who ask me, Andy, I'm frustrated. What should I do to overcome the frustration? Can you share what some of those frustrations were and what you did to kind of calm your frustrations, or maybe not that you had nerves, but that's my word, not yours, but what you did to kind of, situate yourself.
Right. And if I look down, it's because I did write some things down I wanted to make sure to answer. So
I love it. And I love it. Don't you worry. You're doing great.
So one thing was that I was told by a lot of people that I couldn't get into finance. Like, if you didn't take that track from the beginning, you were never going to get there. It was like too much hard work now. I don't have the right education, because I ended up in a graduate program for economics because I thought that was more interesting than like an MBA. And I was told I didn't have the right skills, and that was pretty like depressing. I also, some of my another frustration was just like not knowing more specifics about what I wanted to do. I was just trying to Google like what are different roles in business and in finance, and I was just too broad with my thinking. So I just felt lost. I didn't know exactly what I should be applying to. I had all different ideas of different jobs, and I wasn't settled in and confident in one area.
Okay. Wait. So let's pause there for a second. So you said a couple of really key things. Number one, there's some issues and challenges you faced because the noise. Let's call it noise because that's what you're hearing from the outside. You can't do this. You won't be able to do that. So I call those myths, right? The stories we tell ourselves, but also incorrect information. And the good thing was you didn't listen to it. But I think something you all, okay, so we all hear those in various forms, but the one thing you said that I think hits for a lot of people is you didn't know the path to take, right? So you had some education, but maybe not in complete alignment. How did you overcome figuring out what the steps were to get yourself on the right track? Because I know most people, even me as a business owner, when we take a step, we can't see the whole path, but we want to be confident we're taking the right steps. What did you do to overcome some of that you just shared?
Well, one thing I did was kind of think of my ideal employer, and I met with somebody actually in a field I was interested in, and they're like, I just don't get your narrative. I don't get your resume. Don't get your story. I don't get your background. And I was like, well, this is definitely somebody I wouldn't want a job from. I knew I had to find a company and to find people that would appreciate my background, and aspects of it and see value in that. So I didn't want to be in like the most corporate situation. So I just started thinking about like who would want to hire me and why. And that, helped build some confidence and just some kind of hope in, moving forward. I also, I spoke to people, right? I spoke to a lot of people, and the ones that were like, no, you can't do this. You can't learn this, right now. You don't have the right background. Obviously I didn't ask them to speak again, or I didn't ask for their advice. But the people who said, oh, you can do something about this, I asked them what they thought I should do, and I took a lot of recommendations. I looked through that, and I found the best fits for me to learn more. I also got very specific on exactly what I wanted to do, and I thought big. I didn't try to limit myself based on getting rejections from past people or feeling like I didn't have the qualifications in certain job descriptions. I said, let me really think about what I want to do and go for that. And that was actually advice that somebody had given me to you're doing a whole career change again. So like, what do you really want to do? And get your narrative to say, that's where you're headed and that's what you're doing right now. So I was able to focus more.
Ooh, okay, wait. These are like bombs of gold here. So let's reiterate some things you said because these are things that I truly believe, and I know it sounds like you've pieced them together from people you researched, and this is something I don't think a lot of people do. But you said some real key things here that I wrote down. Number one, I thought about what I wanted to happen, and you did something that makes it almost brought a tear to my eye. Where I tell people, look, you're wasting time chasing people. Don't try to convince. Feed the funnel, right? More opportunities. You just keep looking. I always say there are employers all over this world are falling all over themselves to have you work there. You just haven't found them yet because most people spend their time trying to convince people who don't want to be convinced or people whose minds are already closed, which you didn't do. And that is a major kudos for you, major lesson for anybody who's listening to us right now. And the other thing is I thought about who I wanted to be, what I wanted, why I wanted it, right? What did I want to make happen? So you got rid of the limited thinking and you thought big about what is it I want and how do I make that happen? And that's the only thing you focused on. And I know that was true because as we worked together through this, that was very apparent. But one thing I want to ask you. I know you did a lot of research. You said you talked to these people, and then you got specific about what you wanted to do, and you thought big, which is what we want you to think, right? We don't want you to think, oh, I'm just so desperate because I'm making a career change that I got to take anything. And I always want people to get on the right path. What were the steps you took? Like, how did you get specific? What can you share with people who are struggling with the lack of specificity? How do I know? Usually they struggle with, I don't know what's out there, or I don't know what the tactics are, or so what did, and I know you joined the program to get some organization, but specifically how did you, get yourself that step-by-step approach, and what were those steps?
Yeah, I started with my resume. I thought that was just such an important exercise for me, and I redid it several times. I spent I spent a lot of time on that resume. Like you do it once and you're like, oh yeah, I did good. I spent a lot of time on this. And then you go do some other work in the program and you come back to it and you make a new realization. You're like, oh, okay, my resume has to change again. I'm figuring it out. And so it was an evolution that immediately my resume got better, but then it kept getting better. I kept kind of going back to it and used it as a way to like become the person I wanted to be, and add the experience I needed to add. So one thing I did was you said in the program, stop for a career changer. Like you want to be talking to people. And, so I actually didn't even really look at job descriptions too much anymore because I thought it was a waste of time to put myself with this career change and no, very clear MBA or finance background. I knew I wouldn't really get through the ATS systems and it had to be the boss hunting and things like that. So I said, I really want to be an ESG or something sustainable with finance, which of course is even more challenging than just getting into finance, is getting into the sustainability aspect of it. So I did sign up for another small certification to add to my resume and to continue my education. So that is it's just a certificate in environmental, social, and governance investing, just to show that my education is really following that path. I also, I think this is interesting to share. So when I was doing some boss hunting tactics and asking people for connections, I saw a friend and, I said, oh, I'm looking for a job. I am really open, right? This was more in the beginning when I was still like, I would do all these different things. And he really wanted to help me, a good friend. He thought of several people, gave me their information and was like, I have this person who works in government, this person who works in a business, this person's a nonprofit. I want to connect you. I know all the people. Then I kept doing the program and I got more, clear about exactly, I want to be in finance, sustainability, ESG. And then I redid my resume and then I sent it to him and I said, oh, I redid my resume. And also I'm doing this certification to, because I'm passionate about sustainability and I really want to do this in finance. So lo and behold, he actually, at that point, that was the first time he thought to go to his own company and thought that I'd be a good fit for the company he worked for. So the first time I went to him, he didn't even think he didn't even think of his own job. But once I got clear and showed what I was doing and changed my resume again to be more specific, that's when he said, oh, I want to talk to my boss about Tracey. And, and he ended up doing that.
Okay, wait. So I love that. Hang on, let me get back up here with you. So let's do a mini recap of those steps because that is absolute gold for a career changer. So if I heard you correctly, so I was trying to jot these down. You said, first, actually, I know you didn't mention it in this little segment of the talk, but I know you spent a lot of time up front thinking about the direction you wanted to go. Then you said you spent a lot of time on your resume. So I want people to, I don't want that to slide by people. You took a pass at your resume. You and I communicated. You talked about where you wanted to go, and it was a process to evolve your resume into something that showed who you wanted to be. It was not a one-step thing, but you put a lot of effort into that, which I absolutely loved, and it is a work of art, by the way, if I can compliment you on that. And then the other thing you did was what? I know where I want to go now and the kinds of places and maybe the kind of work I want to do, but I'm not going to go based on the limited world job description inventory that's publicized out there because number one, that's thinking too small and thinking too few. And the second thing is I'm not going to be successful by targeting job descriptions because I'm going to lose if somebody's looking at my resume against the job description. So you networked and you got routed to people who you could connect with. And I know you talked about your friend, but as you were doing this, you were also doing what? Supplementing what you were doing with the certifications, and as you were growing just in a short period of time here, but what you did was you very quickly built that house, kind of brick by brick to put it together. All right, so your friend says, I've got an opportunity, I got to get you to my boss. Can you tell the kind of the world here what transpired when you moved into this organization where you were going to help them with finance in ESG? So what was the outcome?
Oh, wait, can you ask the question again? Sorry.
So basically, you went through these stages as you worked your search, as you worked your change, as you did your networking. Then you got with your friend who introduced you, right, to his boss or the CEO or whoever it was in the organization. Can you share with the folks how that went? What that process was like to actually attain the job that you got?
Absolutely. So, one thing that he said to me, that my friend said to me, he said, my boss really likes people with non-traditional backgrounds. And so I was like, bingo, like that's exactly what I had said when I did that interview with the woman in finance and ESG who was like, I don't get your background at all. And I was like, someone will. So, so my friend was like, add your dance back in your resume. So I think I did like put an extra line item or something. And then he passed my resume along. So yeah, he just wanted to meet up with me. There were just so many challenges with this because this employer does not like to do things the traditional way. So there was no job description, there was no job title. I actually thought I was going to be more in a sustainability role. So I just started studying what I thought I might need for the interview. I also was told by my friend that the employer is going to ask you what you want immediately. And I was like, oh, wow. There's so much good information on negotiation that I did use, so much of what, Andy has in the program that I said, oh, wait, this is a weird situation. I don't even have a job title, and they're going to ask me about money. And they're going to be very severe about asking about money, very into it. So I did that. I think that's when I signed up for one of your private one-on-one sessions. I just wanted, this was like a, interesting circumstance. I wanted some advice on how to handle that since I was not doing negotiation towards the end. So we came up with a plan. We came up with first I used the document from the program to create your own job description when there's no job role. That spreadsheet is beautiful. People love that. I made it around sustainability stuff. And that was great. But then at the interview, big kind of shift, he said, you know what? I looked at your resume. You have an MBA, which I don't. I'm like, no, I have an economics and I have a finance kind of minor. And he's like, all right, well, you have an MBA. So people like to think what they want to think. But he said, I think our finance guy would like you. Like you should be not in our sustainability aspect of the team, but just with our finance guy who does all of the, all of the financial modeling. So at that point, I had not really studied the right things, nor was my job role description accurate. So I ended up, not showing that. But yeah, I just had a great, kind of first interview with him, found out the information, and he said, listen, I like you, but it doesn't matter. You have to meet the finance guy now and start your interview. And from that point on, I got programs at home. I got Excel, like an Excel program, a financial modeling program. I did a free program at Coursera, and I started going through, and I just said, okay, I can't learn everything there is to know about financial modeling and accounting. So I ignored any accounting aspect of it, and I really just understood the theory of financial modeling and just the logic. And you have an income statement and a balance sheet, just a very big overview things so that I could have a broad understanding. So I just studied for a few weeks, and I had that interview, and it just went really well. I had a couple interviews, and they ended up asking me as one of my activities to write my own job description. So again, I took out that template and I redid it for this more strictly finance role with maybe a little bit of sustainability. And they were like, this is exactly what we're looking for.
All right, wait, I love this. Okay, so So let's summarize this. Some of the major highlights that you mentioned. You go into this process not knowing what they're going to call you or what area you're going to work in. So what does Coach call it? The art of the possible, right? I like this organization. I like my friend. He's got nice things to say about the company. I like the people I'm meeting, right, or the people I'm about to meet. You get in there and you took some of the framework out of the job search coaching program, which is great. And Tracey's alluding to a criteria matrix that we have that is a foundation for the direction that you set for yourself. And yes, you can evaluate employers, you can prep your job descriptions from it, but it's really about knowing what it is that you want. So regardless of what a job is called, this is a key point. You didn't let the evolution of this process and the changing of the role particularly affect whether you liked the organization, whether you wanted to work there, as long as it was satiating the things that were important to you. And all too often, people, this is a big lesson here, they quit a process because the role that they're interviewing for, they discover, well, this might not be exactly right for me. But in today's market, and this, it's always been like this, but it's especially like this now because the world moves at such a breakneck pace and companies grow so quickly and they change so quickly, is it's important that you stick with it if you like the organization and you like the people, because it sounds like the CEO wanted to find the right role for you. And then what did you do? You were nimble enough to educate yourself. And here's another piece of a golden nugget is, did you hear how Tracey was saying that she was learning the theories? She needed to know enough to be able to speak sensibly, but probably had enough wind at your back, right? That where the finance person was just wanting to make sure that you were coming in with some kind of raw material, right? And it was a lot about the culture fit, probably the recommendation from your friend, the fact that you were taking strides to become educated, certified, and those kind of things. All right, so I love that. Now we're leading to success here, but now just to give people a frame of reference, from the time that you kind of jumped in with me, and I know you said you did your own homework, you went through the program, and yes, Tracey and I did have a session where, as she was going into interview, she wanted to be prepared for any kind of off-the-wall questions, whether it was about what do you want to do or how much do you want to earn or whatever. So we needed to prep for a lot of different contingencies, which we did. But how long has all of this taken you to this point? Was it something like 8 weeks, maybe less? Or how long? Can you give people a frame of reference of how, because I think this is inspiring in how quickly you were able to do all this. How long did that all take you?
Yeah, I
Roughly.
would think around 2 months.
Around 8 weeks. Because it was,
Maybe a little bit more till I got the offer.
Right, because then that dragged a little bit because they had to put it. But basically, from the time you jumped into the program and as you worked the process and then got in motion, did your research, started networking heavily and all that good stuff, you had the employer you were going to on the line fairly quickly. Then it was a journey with them to kind of work through what was the right role. All right, so let's cap it off with a couple things. So what ended up happening from the kind of role that you got, or if you want to discuss anything inspiring about the negotiation, that's great. If not, that's okay too. And just let us know what happened, and then we'll end it with some parting thoughts.
Sure. So another thing I want to mention is that with the person that I was going to be working underneath, I had a phone interview with them, and then I was invited to come to the office. And I had already been studying by the phone interview, but he said, "Oh, I'm gonna, show you some things we're working on." And I said, "Oh, great! This is gonna help my studying if I could take a look at that." So I said, "Great! I'm more than happy to look at, to go through that with you in the office. If you want to send me anything early, I'd be more than happy to take a look.
Smart.
And I'd love to see what you're up to." So he sent me an example of a common financial model that they use. And I Googled things and went in there
Wow.
and figured out the logic and wrote down a bunch of questions because there was a bunch I didn't know. And when I was there in person and he was explaining the model to me, I was able to bring up these questions. I say, "Oh, I see you have this number 20,000 in there. Like, I didn't know what that was referring to. Why 20,000? He's like, "Oh, great catch. Actually, 20,000 is the average life of this." So I was able to ask questions to show that I understood it. And that was key, honestly, to my confidence coming into the interview. And to continue to study that next week.
So wait, so that's a really good
Yeah.
wait. This is a really good point, and because people wait, Tracey, I'm really glad you brought that up because people shy away from this. The more opportunities that you have to look at real life stuff that they do, and I would include in this case studies. So like if you're given an opportunity to do a case study as well, this all falls under the same umbrella where you're getting a better understanding of what it is they want you to do. You're also getting a chance to shine in what you can do and treat it like a working session. So I love that. All right, so you've met with the CEO, you talked with some people, you met with the finance person. What ended up happening from here?
So yeah, from here, they loved me. They just asked me for, they loved me. From here, the boss brought me, like the main head honcho brought me
Mm-hmm.
in and, he's like, all right, money. So I do want to mention that you have to be smart. Like 99% of what's in the program is probably the best way to go. But like you have to be pretty smart to recognize 1% where your employer is completely not open to maybe something, that was advised. Like, so I will tell you exactly what it was. It was, Andy, you told me, if you want to ask for more money or if you want to ask for what you think you're worth, just and you think it's higher, than what they've said the range is, like know your value, like what you're going to give to that
Mm-hmm.
company. So I have that prepared, and I was like, I'm going to know my value. So when I told him, what I wanted, he said, and I was like, and he's like, why? So I started to go into my value that I was going to bring, and he said, stop it, I don't want to know your value. Not in a mean way, but he's very direct. He's like, I don't want to know your value. I want to know personally what this means to you.
Mm.
And I don't think anyone really does that. And he really didn't want to hear why I was valuable. So I said, you know what? Let me think about it. I'm going to come back to you at the end of the day. We had a couple more hours. And when I came back, I told him, I told him a reason. I told him a reason, and it had nothing to do with the value I was bringing to the company. So I just want to say, somebody's going to, during the way, you got to know, like, all right, and you have to be able to take that moment and say, oh, this is not traditional way of doing things. Let me, make this shift.
Well, and I think what you're saying, and I always say this to people, you can't turn your brain off no matter what you read, what template you're using, what system you're using, mine or anybody else's for that matter, is you have to be able to read the situation. And you did a great job of that along the way because you were obviously not only evolving, but you were changing and working together. And this is a big deal. Wait, it doesn't matter if you're just changing jobs or you're making a wholesale career change like Tracey did. You have to work together as a team through a process. This job was not publicized. There was not a job description or a square that they were trying to fit a square peg into. This was, we like this person, we like her background, we know she can be valuable. How can we? It's that Jim Collins good to great mentality. Let's get the right people on the bus and they'll figure out where to drive it kind of thing. So especially for career changers, you got to be open-minded to this. All right, so you negotiate, so you got it, and you made your argument maybe a little bit differently than we all would hope, because we want to, I always keep saying, it's based on your value, but that's
Right.
okay. This person looks at it a little differently, and that's okay, right? He's right for his company and his situation. How did you feel about, can you at least, without getting too specific into your numbers and all that, can you let people know, look, I was earning a certain amount, but I went in here and I stuck to my guns and whatever. How did the compensation in relation to what you were earning before or more recently, did you have to take a pay cut, or did you earn more money, or how did, you ultimately got this job? Let's talk about that for a second, and then I want to cap off with any final messages you want to share with the group.
Yeah, sure. So he told me a range that was about, a range that I had made, and I just made, instead of agreeing with the range, I took this. I don't know if this was from the program, where it was in the program, or if it was from our private session, but I still didn't, I tried not to accept it, to say yes to anything, right? You talk about that a
Yeah.
lot, and I said, that sounds like a good place to start. And just to let you know, I don't know if this is right, but I said, just to let you know, I have been at the higher end, and just to, I not, I didn't want him to think I was at the lower end. But anyway, moving on, I um, what it would have been a good salary and it would have been about what I would have made. But then, and if I would have, accepted that right away, I would have been in that place. But because I really put it off and I was able to wait until the end, and then I could come in there with more confidence and have the ability, he gave me a number he was thinking, and, I thought about it, and he said, really tell me what you need for your life, and I was able to come back and get, well above what I had been making,
I love that.
um, to, to give me a more comfortable, life and help with my future.
Wait, I love that. Okay, so lesson here, just because you're a career changer, a couple things you said real key. You don't have to necessarily take a pay cut. There's nothing wrong with taking a pay cut, but you didn't. That's great. You didn't just accept something that you could have been comfortable with, but actually took the time, took a step back, thought about it, and went back to him. All right, so sensational outcome, wonderful journey. As we cap this off, any final inspirational messages for anybody who's listening, whether they're a career changer going through something similar as you are, or just somebody just simply changing jobs, or maybe unemployed who needs a job? What do you want to, any final inspirational messages?
Yeah. So first, I want to say I would have taken a pay cut. So Andy had said in the program to, to know your worth, but if you want to take a pay cut to get the right experience, sure, do it. Whatever's your truth. And so I was willing to take, just in general, I was willing to take a pay cut. So that wasn't a deal breaker that I needed to make more money. I think that just, my final thoughts are that don't waste your time doing the things that your specific circumstances don't need for you to do. If you're a career changer like me, or probably anyone, right? Like, don't spend so much time like looking up jobs and being in the ATS system. Like, I think the program tells you a lot also about how to not waste your time. So don't just do the right things. Don't do the wrong things.
Mm-hmm.
That would be and don't listen to people who don't think you have the background. Find the people that think you can do it, and then find the people that can give you some insight into how to get some of that education you might need.
I love it. Okay, so hey, let me get back up here with you before we say so long. All right, so wait, so I love the part about don't waste time, right? Because people try to be thrifty and nimble and piece some things together. There's a lot of bad information out there. So some of the things, just kind of final parting thoughts that I want to make sure we collect for the group here. The things that I think you said that are absolute diamonds is you got to think about who you want to be and what you want. You don't have the limited thinking and only go by what's publicized, because there is a great chance, whether you're just a job changer or a career changer, that your dream job is nowhere to be found. You've got to surface it. And by spending more time with the reach outs as opposed to chasing people who are not getting back to you is gonna do you well. And then once you get engaged, that part I loved, because I lived that with you. I love the odyssey you went through as we had our sessions, and we also communicated in the system where you were rolling with it because you were treating it like we are a team. We're working together because I like them and they like me. What's the right role? What am I interested in? Where's that intersection of what they need and what I can do to get engaged in ESG, in the financial part of it? And you were making a drastic change from an arts background to an analytical one. I think is a tremendous change, and without sacrificing the economics of it, and actually getting paid more than you were earning before. So Tracey, I cannot thank you enough for sharing this with us and spending so much time. You probably won't know this at this moment, although I didn't know it when I was initially creating videos for people, but there are so many people that are going to watch this and that you're going to inspire. I hope you know that, and you're proud not only of what you accomplished, but that you're sharing it with others so they can benefit. So I really want to thank you so much, and I hope everybody gives Tracey a big shout out. And maybe if you're in the Mile Walk Academy, you can try to hunt her down and get connected up with her on the private platform. Otherwise, I really hope what she said is educational and inspires you on your journey. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right. Thanks all. We'll see you later.